The most important thing to remember about any kind of psychotherapy, healing, spirituality, introspection is to see yourself through the lens of grace. Because that's fundamentally also why we're afraid to see ourselves. We're afraid to see the truth in ourselves that's incorrect because there's shame there. There's guilt there. It's why we look at some past experience and get all embarrassed because we made a mistake, and it's like you look at a mistake and then you shame yourself for it. Instead of you could just see it as a mistake that just needs correction. Because if you truly knew better, you would do better. I believe that about people. If they knew better, they would totally do better. But there's a part of them that doesn't know what they're doing, so they're unconscious. And so if someone is unconscious, it's a negative emotion, and then we judge it, which is also another level of unconscious. And so we sort of take that with our own selves too. We're afraid to see ourselves make errors or admit to mistakes, because we believe we are those things. And that's not true. Until you change yourself and heal, you don't know that it's possible. So you're still in the shame and the guilt, and that's real to you. So it's hard to see that you're doing it, because you're afraid you can't get out of it, and you're afraid that you're going to see some kind of dark mountain of shame and guilt that you're unable to reconcile. And that's not true. And so what you want to do is be as graceful as possible, because that's going to be your strength. Love is strength. Love is going to be the strength. Grace, forgiveness is the strength where you can take to look at yourself for making unconscious choices. Because that's all it is. You just weren't aware of the patterns in yourself, because all of our patterns are from childhood. It's not like you're a young child consciously developing your inner deep psyche. That's the whole point of being human. It's to go through the suffering, all through the life until maybe it's enough and you're like, okay, how do I see this differently? How can I question what I don't know? And that's where people begin to kind of be more open, I think, to transforming themselves and trying to see things differently so they can have a different state of being and a different life. So if you're in that journey, just be mindful not to fear the fear. Don't fear seeing yourself, because fear is the illusion. Don't feel guilty because you had guilt, because that's doubling down. So you're not really getting rid of it. Don't be embarrassed and ashamed of a mistake, because that's shaming the shame. So just try to bring grace and bring awareness to where you're not being graceful, so you can bring it in. And the more grace and forgiveness you bring, the less guilt and shame and fear you'll have within you.